Oh, it's time to start.
Randy would play the music if it was time to start.
We almost weren't surprised there for a moment.
Brothers, sisters, siblings, welcome to Penn Sunday School, starring Penn Jillette. My name is Michael Ludo. Matt, Ready Rich, Penn, and I are broadcasting from our separate homes in Las Vegas. Today we'll talk about Bob Dylan's Rough and Rowdy Way, review some Fool Us episodes, Andy Warhol eats a hamburger, Penn Jillette eats chocolate, and we'll talk some Iggy Pop. Here he is, preaching love, Mr. Penn Jillette.
Yeah, preaching love here in Las Vegas, which is doing badly in the pandemic.
Yes, we are.
The whole idea of, we're opening up, boy, boom, boom. It sure looks like
shocking.
There's no end in sight.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't know if anybody said this yet publicly, but is this going to turn into a partisan virus? I mean, the states that...
What do you mean going to?
I mean, states that have a strong Republican governor and people who followed our president's lead are getting sicker faster.
Yeah.
Which I guess epidemiologically is not surprising, but it still is very, very strange to have a virus that's going to break down by party lines.
It is very strange. Why would science be political?
I know.
Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know which way the virus itself votes, but...
It is bizarre. I mean, I even had a former Facebook friend. Right, like, honest answers only. Do you really know anyone who's died from this virus? And I was like, what a monster. I was like, what a monster. Wait, if you're grieving for the loss of your friend in this pandemic, I need details. And like, even like if someone wrote like, yep, so-and-so, and then he wrote, how old are they? Who? Give me names, And he was like on this kick to like say like only old people who are already dying are dying from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, that's good. I'm glad you finally stepped up and found that avenue for Facebook. You really have done great for mankind. And then a lot of people writing, I've done my own research. You do your research, masks can't stop the virus, that kind of stuff. And I want to say to anybody out there, if like a casual friend writing a book on anything would never hire you to do research, why should I suddenly be reverent of your research abilities?
And by research, they mean just searching on the web, right?
Yeah, one thing.
Yes.
Yeah, one thing.
No, even if it's 100 things, it's not like they're working at a research facility.
Yeah. That's it.
But I also don't understand wearing a mask. There's really no downside. I guess it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, this is where, there are people that compare this to like environmentalism and stuff too, right? So like that was an example of like if we have a green economy and it turns out humans didn't have a huge impact on the environment, well, then we have a green economy that runs in a more, efficient way. But then people argue the other way, And so, yeah, if you don't want to wear a mask, the risk is you're killing people. And if you do wear a mask, the risk is that it's inconvenient and you get to say, I told you so in a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've also said it before. There's nothing we can do that won't be judged as over responsive or under responsive. No one's ever going to go perfect.
Yeah. Why don't we get out ahead of this? All right. Anyone out there listening who's still not wearing a mask, I give you full permission for nanny poo poo. You were right. I was wrong. I give you full permission if you wear a mask, to rub it in my face that it was useless a year from now. I will take it all.
Let's mark the date on the calendar. Let's go with the solstice. June 20th will be, let's rub it in those guys' face.
Yeah.
Either way.
The reciprocal is not true.
Yeah.
If it turns out wearing a mask is a good idea, we won't say anything.
Yeah, well, I won't. I will just be like, what mask?
Yeah.
It's all over.
It's probably stupid, but it's done now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's probably stupid.
Putting it right out there.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's a good plan. I like that plan. Finally, we've solved a world problem on the show. All these episodes. We have 600 episodes and haven't solved a world problem until now.
We have the mark of the beast number of episodes.
That's right.
Yeah.
616, which Reddy informs us is the real mark of the beast. Why do you say that?
Explain it, Reddy?
The earliest manuscript has that number. It's only later manuscripts that have 666.
Is it just
a typo?
A typo? Were they not writing clearly?
Who knows?
Mind your P's and S's.
My 5s and my 3s look a lot alike when I handwrite. So maybe someone was sloppy with the 1 and the 6.
Yeah, you could have a little thing at the bottom of your 6.
Yeah. If you're using a rush.
Although you got 2 others to compare it to. Right there. I mean, a 6 just there alone, you can understand it. But right in the middle of 2 others? Let me see. We got a 6, and we got something that looks just like the 6, and then next to it another 6. I guess it's a 1.
I have to say, though, my childhood phone number ended with 6999. And I think my 9s could look very different compared to one when you're writing them right next to each other. So,
oh, really?
Yeah,
so
I think so.
Maybe that was an invalid joke.
I'm glad. I'm just really sticking up for everything. I mean, I don't want to stick up to the point where I think that it's valid. There is a number of the beast, but I do want to just say, from a handwriting perspective,
we don't believe. We don't believe.
We're just practical today.
There's a beast or a number for the beast.
Yeah.
But if there were, we have a lot of opinions on that number.
We just sold the History Channel show.
616 or 666? Coming up.
If there was a beast.
There's no, it used to be, the History Channel used to be the Hitler Channel, and now it's the Spirit Channel, right? It's the
cryptozoology as well.
Yeah.
They have, they do stuff on the Kraken. And what's the big megalodon? What's the big shark?
Oh, yeah, Megalodon.
Megalodon. They do
Megalodon, the one that used to be around. Yeah, they're making the claim that it's still out there somewhere.
Well, how big is the ocean? All of a sudden, I'm singing a soul love song to you there.
Do you want it in gallons?
You could hide it.
Is a percentage okay? 73% of the.
You could hide a megalodon in the ocean for all I care.
I'm good at that.
For all I care.
I bet you I get caught.
Yeah. He didn't even go. He's just right there on the beach.
Matt, you're just shooing him out there. Just shooing him. He's like, what, 10 feet from shore?
That way. Go.
Go.
Yeah, there have only been a half a dozen people down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Maybe they're hanging out down there.
Yeah. Also, how about that astronaut?
Yeah.
That was in the shuttle and in Mariana's Trench.
That's pretty great.
Yeah. She got to do both.
That's a good career. That's a good career.
Yeah. That's a good career if you like really tight, uncomfortable, smelly places.
That's a skill. She should be a magician's assistant next.
Yes, exactly. That would be really, really funny. Here's a woman that's really good at enclosed spaces. We just produced her out of this empty box.
Somebody get on the phone.
Yeah, she must be, she's also small. We know that, right?
Yeah. Put her into space.
Yeah.
Although they're not quite as strict on that as they used to be.
Yeah, but they're still not putting, Louis Anderson up.
Yeah. I think he hasn't applied for the job.
Not last I checked that Indiegogo campaign. No.
Put Louis into space. Although Louis now means Louis C.K., right? It meant Louis Anderson for a long while. But.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we knew who you meant.
Yeah.
So you were not here last week.
I was not. No. My father-in-law passed away last week.
So sorry.
So
It was tough. And it was, to miss out actually was interesting because it was Father's Day was the episode last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories actually is that he is the son of Ruby Keeler.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And
By a waterfall.
I always thought that was on your on Sarah's mother's side.
no, Sarah's mom's Sarah's grandmother on her mom's side was also in a vaudeville trio as well. So
And also Ruby Keeler's daughter, but let's not talk about that.
Different time. It was a different time.
But when he was over in Vietnam, Bob Hope was playing one of the big basses or whatever, and he was not on that bass. But news had spread or whatever, and he had said to a cohort like, "Hey, if we can find a way to get over to that show, I bet I can get us backstage with Bob Hope." And so they found a friend, got a chopper, 4 guys left, went over to the big base where the show was happening. And he did that thing where you just keep asking a question that no one can answer, so they keep passing you forward. Why
does the porridge bird lay its eggs in the air?
Yeah, exactly. But then finally he just made it to the gate where he's like, Bob Hope is a friend of my mother's, and if you tell him I'm here, I bet he wants to see me. And sure enough, out comes Bob Hope, brings him and his buddies backstage, and they hang out backstage and watch a Bob Hope show at the base.
And had you met Bob Hope before?
He had not.
Because, my friend Phyllis Diller, she loved Bob Hope.
Yeah.
She just loved him. My mother, who'd never met Bob Hope, did not like Bob Hope. When Bob Hope came on TV, my mother said she did not like him. He seemed conceited and smug. She didn't.
Well, once you think that, it's hard to really peel that away.
Yeah. And
now I don't like Bob Hope. Damn her.
One of the big surprises about Woody Allen, and boy, there've been a lot of surprises on Woody Allen, is he always says his major influence was Bob Hope. And because they look so different, you don't think of that. But if you watch the Bob Hope movies and you watch Woody Allen, he does the same stuff.
Oh, wow. That's so
It's all the same comedy. It's the same writing. It's the same relationship to people. It's very similar. He certainly learned a lot from Bob Hope.
I've always tried to keep an eye out because of Monty Python's such an influence on people, and yet there isn't that quick, picky dialogue stuff that you see in sketches that you see in their sketches. I've never seen their style reflected. I always thought you could get away with it with American accents of totally ripping off their style and no one would know. But I never.
No one's done that?
Yeah, I haven't seen a good example of it.
Yeah. You mean the grammar correction and stuff like that?
Yeah.
All the Oxford stuff?
Yeah, where all the stuff where it takes a side turn just based on a picky thing and they lose track of the main thing they're talking about. But
That's Facebook.
Well, we were doing the atheist card trick in our show, which is a long, overextended metaphor comparing cards to cosmology and physics. And Eric Idle was in the audience. He'd come that night, I think it was Steve Martin. And he came backstage afterwards and said a sentence that still rings in my mind. He said, when Stephen Hawking did stand up, he had a bit very similar to that. Now, we don't even remember when Stephen Hawking could stand up.
Right.
But apparently at university, he did do stand-up.
Oh, wow.
And he hung out with the Python fellas.
Oh, that's funny.
Which is why when Python did their big comeback thing several years ago, Hawking was in it.
Nice.
That's fascinating.
Because Hawking was very interested in comedy and also very much liked overextended metaphors. Yeah. So he did something like a card trick about cosmology.
And you stole it.
Eric, in his autobiography, has confessed that style was because they all had problems writing punchlines.
Oh, wow.
And so they would just look for any way to bail out of a bit.
Now for something completely different.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it reminds me of the famous story with John Coltrane and Miles Davis. And John Coltrane, very unusually, when he was in the Miles Davis band, would take more choruses than Miles Davis, which is unheard of. The band leader takes the longest solo, and the other sidemen take shorter solos. It's just kind of obviously the way it would be, right?
Yeah.
But Miles Davis would play his solo, kind of blue, and then Coltrane would come in and play a longer solo, more choruses. And Miles Davis was not a talky kind of friendly fella.
Right.
But he said I'm now debating, my whole life is being torn apart, so I'm debating whether I want to do a Miles Davis impersonation. But Miles Davis said to him, "Oh, why you go so long in the choruses?" And Coltrane said, and I'm not going to do my Coltrane impersonation, although I'll tell you it is spot on. But I've not got a sax, which is what I need to do my Coltrane impersonation. And Coltrane said, "I can never find a good place to stop." And Miles Davis said, "Have you tried taking the horn out of your mouth?" And I believe that those exact quotations are not accurate, but Reddy's looking them up right now, and he will give us it word for word presently. But I've always liked that story. And Miles Davis, although not one who's quoted heavily, that story and the other story that kills me, and I wish it didn't have a racial component, because the basic idea of it is so spot on. Miles Davis said, "Television is white people laughing at nothing." And I like everything about that, except I want a different thing there than white people.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say the same thing he meant by that,
Yeah. Just the whole concept was so foreign to him.
Yeah. White people laughing at nothing. I mean, that, when you're watching Seinfeld, I don't think there's anything else that can go through your head.
Yeah.
I bet Jerry would agree, too.
Oh,
you found it there, Ready, Rich?
Yeah, statement, not a question. Try taking the horn out of your mouth.
Try taking the horn out of your mouth is a pretty great answer. I mean, someone should have said that to Lance Burton when he had, 4 endings to his magic show. Hey, Lance, try taking the horn out of your mouth. Yeah. So you had to deal with, is this the first death of a family member your children had to deal with?
Yeah, and I think that was
were they close to their grandfather?
They were very close. He was a great grandfather to them, and
also Keeler is named after.
Yeah, my son is named after his mother, and so and he was released into hospice care. Was what he chose to do, and when he did so, he requested that he see his grandchildren, and so we spent a lot of time with him towards the end, and I was surprised that my children wanted to spend the time.
Are they his only grandchildren?
They are.
Do you think they understood that he was going to die? Did you explain that part to them?
Yes, we did. We did explain that he was
That's
sick.
Tough.
Because we were walking into his house, and there was a hospital bed.
And how old are your children? You should repeat that.
They're 5 and 7.
Okay, that's 12. Ask me another. Oh, it wasn't. Okay. Sorry.
And so they were going to see him in the hospital bed, so we let them know that he was sick, and they of course were still wanting to get better, and we we're kind of riding that wave.
They still want him to get better now. You mean they don't really?
No. They were still.
No, that wasn't a crazy. That wasn't a crazy question, because you could have maybe not told them he was dead.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing, right? So he was deteriorating, and so on the final, what would end up being the final day, I actually took them home because I thought, yes, they've been amazing for the last 3 days, but I don't know how much they actually want to see all this go down, and so Sarah and I decided we'd just take them take them to their grandmothers. And then he passed away, and we had to tell them. And this is interesting because, on this show, talking about, philosophically raising our children atheist, with my own coming to atheism later in life, I always said that religion is a credit card for grief. One of the functions of it is you get to kind of spread out the pain of a loss over longer periods of time before you kind of ultimately end up saying goodbye at like a later time. And that was just from my personal experience of saying that. And so it was interesting to be in the face of this moment and wanting to not repeat that process, and also curious especially with the 5-year-old, how much he was going to take it all in, and so, we sat them down and just said the bad news as plainly as we could. And they took it hard, super hard. And in the peak of their emotion, there absolutely was a need on my part to try to want to say something that would ease that away, that would give them hope, that would take some of it away. And it was fascinating to not do that. It was like, wow. And just my wife and I both looking at each other like, boy, do we want to say something while these children are in anguishing at tears to give them a pathway to not feel so horrible. We didn't. And what was interesting is that after that painful moment and what seemed like forever, an hour later, they're laughing and chasing each other and running around. And when they say, we're going to go back to the house to go through some things, they say, can you grab some pictures? We'd like to see more pictures of them. And we were like, of course.
Well, that's going to make me cry.
Yeah. I mean, it was such a mature response. And, they're asking asking a lot of questions about his death and things like that. But it was amazing that within 24 hours that they did not have a need to feel like he was still out there. They had a need to hold on to their parts of him, and their enthusiasm for still wanting to understand it, and their enthusiasm for still living life outside of it was really, really impressive. And I couldn't believe it. I was really thought this was going to be an ordeal for me to tackle, and a real trying time for me as an atheist parent. And aside from the actual moment where it all went down, it was not.
Yeah, my sister died when my children were, I guess, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Just a little bit too young.
Yeah, that's harder.
And it wasn't that it was harder. They just didn't perceive, they didn't know my sister that well. They called her auntie. They'd only met her once or twice. Right. And Z, you don't form any lasting memories before 3.5 on the average. Right. It's 3.5. So he was, they were kind of both below that. They don't really have a memory of any of that. And then, Johnny died when they were 12 and 13. Yeah. And that was very difficult. They were both very close to Johnny. I mean, from my side, they have both grandparents on my wife's side, but Johnny was the closest thing they had to a grandparent on my side. And, Johnny spent a lot of time with him. Yeah. And that was really hard. But, there's this thing that theists do. That was a very, very cruel way to put this. There's some things that some people that I know who identify as theists did to me, where they would say to me, have your mother and father died? And I would say no. And they would say, essentially, and I'm obviously cartooning this. Yeah. They would say, well, wait till your mom and dad die, Mr. Atheist, ha, ha, ha. Which they never said, but, right. That was the challenge. And when my father and my mother died, which was incredibly hard for me, which was now 20 years ago, I couldn't imagine how terrible it would be with religion.
Yeah.
Because my mom suffered so. My mom was paralyzed. And for me to try to conceive of a supreme being who would put that pain to my mother when she lived, from what I could tell, such a good life, would require such mental and spiritual gymnastics to justify that hate. Or is it to make me stronger? Or God doesn't give us anything we can't handle?
Yeah.
And so it was actually quite the opposite. The two events that people told me would push me to God, well, the three events actually, but was the death of my parents, which pushed me stronger into rational thinking and atheism. Not because, and people want to say this, not because God could never give us this kind of suffering, but just because this is the way the universe works, is much easier for me to accept than there's an intelligence there that's making these choices. Also, I didn't want it to be some sort of weird spook show. You know, I was fine with the memory of my mom. And the other thing they said with the birth of my children, which they said would make me say, how can you not believe in God during this? Which I was saying, how can you believe in God during this? How could you possibly need something more?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a level of joy that is unimaginable to me. And why would you want?
And who designs that system for bringing them into the world?
Exactly. And what do you want to add on to this? And the third thing they said is, on my deathbed, that I will cry out to God, and that we're going to find out right now.
Whoa! I heard God in that. Yeah, I heard God.
Yeah, there was a little bit of that. Now, I think you'll know what I'm doing here, Matt. I think you'll know.
Okay.
But just heads up.
Pay attention.
That's a really nice shirt you're wearing, Donnelly.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
And I think you might notice that Michael Godot has the same shirt.
It's very nice, isn't it?
And I have the same very nice shirt. And the reason is because of Mack Weldon.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but I usually wear T-shirts that are like, rock and roll T-shirts, or have the Stooges on them or something,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lenny Bruce. And they're nice because of their design, but they don't really fit or feel good.
No.
Right? Now, this is a T-shirt that seems like a grown-up man would wear. It's colorful. It's red. It has a little bit of a V-neck, and it feels so good. And since I've been working out with Jason, I have bigger arms and bigger chest. And it seems a more attractive T-shirt than I usually wear.
Yeah.
And their
mission,
you
look very attractive today.
Yes, I think I do. And part of it is Mack Weldon, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes.
And I'm going to read their mission statement. Our mission is simple: to make sure all your basics and beyond are smartly designed, true, and shopping for them is easy and convenient. Yes, we founded Mack Weldon because we wanted more out of our basics and always questioned how something so essential be such a pain in the ass to buy. The frustration was real, and our eureka moment happened in a department store aisle full of brands that dominated our top drawer. Surrounded by a mind-numbing assortment of underwear and socks, we realized consistent fit and quality became a game of roulette. So we decided to take matters into our own hands. We started from scratch, engineered our own fabric, which you can tell, made sure the design process was meticulous so you can count on the fit being the same each time. We built a world-class customer experience, the difference in the details. We obsessed over every stitch and seam. We reached our definition of perfect. It seems really good. Whatever you're wearing as a T-shirt, we are doing better than you.
True.
I'll tell you that right now. They do offer the industry-leading underwear. But they're so much more than just an underwear company. They're really a one-stop shop for men's basics of all kinds. Well, I got some sweatpants. I got some underwear. But since the pandemic, I no longer even consider wearing underwear. But I tried them on. They're really good. Believes in smart design, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. It was really easy. You just click stuff, and stuff comes, and it fits. It's really great. The Weldon Blue Loyalty Program. Here at work, you create an account. It's totally free. You place an order for any amount and never pay for shipping again. Level 2, once you purchase $200 worth of products from Mack Weldon, not only will you continue to receive free shipping, but you'll also start saving 20% on every order you make for the next year. And then Level 2 also grants you access to new products before they're released to anyone else, as well as free gifts added to future orders. It's a really great thing. I got this red T-shirt. I just love it. It's a really, really fabulous, fabulous thing. So check it out. Check it out. Please go to, where's the stuff here? I don't even have the stuff here. Must be Mack Weldon, right?
Yeah.
One would presume.
Yeah. Go to MackWeldon.com, and I must be a /Penn. Here we go. For 20% off your first order.
20%?
Yeah. Visit MackWeldon.com, enter promo code PENN. So it's MackWeldon.com, enter promo code
Penn.
And
So it's MackWeldon.com, promo code.
PENN.
And
That's right. Mack Weldon, I love this shirt. I'm going to get a lot more stuff from those guys. I like them. So when did you have to deal with the death and people close to your children there, Goodell?
My children's grandfather, my father-in-law, died about 2 years ago, and my kids went through it, and it was so much better than I expected. Like you're saying, Mac, they were horrified and cried, and then went back to their lives.
yeah.
And they still miss him, and they still talk about him. And we still talk about him with my mother-in-law, with their grandma all the time. And they're so strong and so good. And they bring such life to the recovery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You think you're going to help them? No way. They're doing it for you.
It's the truth.
Oh, yeah.
It's the truth. I mean,
They'll bring a life to the room. They'll knock the darkness out of it.
They really do. They absolutely led the charge for the next couple of days as to like how we were handling it. It was unreal.
When my mother was dying and she was paralyzed in her chair, my great-nephew was 7 because of the very spread out generations that we have with my family. My great-nephew was 7. My sister's grandson was 7. And my mother was very fragile, sitting in her chair with around-the-clock nursing care. She could not move her arms at all, couldn't even scratch her face or feed herself. And my mom had a chair. I think it's called a Hitchcock chair or something, a very nice wooden chair with a caned seat. Right? And it was older than my mom. It was over 100 years old. It was an antique. And Jeremiah, who was my great-nephew, that's his name, he's 7. He's a big child. I mean, now Jeremiah's in his 20s. I guess he would be 27 because this was 20 years ago. He's a big guy. He's a really big guy. He's my height, and he is a lumberjack, essentially. So he's got shoulders. But at 7, he was already big. And he was there with his great-grandmother who was dying. And he was antsy. She couldn't move. So he was jumping around. And he moved over this Hitchcock chair. And this antique had been in the family. And he kind of jumped into it, and there was a little bit of a crack. And my sister and I, of course, were all over Jeremiah and say, "Be careful! That's a beautiful chair. Be careful of it." And my mother said, "Smash it. Smash it to pieces. Destroy that chair now. Smash it." And my sister and I were like, "No, what? I." She said, "Mind me, Jeremiah. Smash that chair. Jump on it. Punch it. Hit it. Destroy that old thing."
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he led the charge.
Does he have memories of that?
I don't know. I've never asked him because I was afraid if I asked him, I would tear up like I did now. And I'd rather do that when being recorded than in the privacy of I guess that's what we've learned here about me. But something got in my eye during that, so let me just wipe that away.
Yeah, there's a lot of wind out here today.
It's the hibiscus tea increases the allergies somewhat. But now it's time to stick up for Rod Stewart.
All right, let's do it.
It's about time Rod Stewart had a champion, and I am that one. I think Rod Stewart has been deeply, deeply insulted by the New York Times.
Oh, what is this?
I am sticking up for Rod Stewart with the New York Times. There was an article on Trump doing his rally and how he fell back into code words that aren't code words, words like heritage and thugs, and so on, and kind of certainly played the, I'm hesitant to just spit out the word racist, but certainly played the us and them card very, very strong.
Okay.
And this is what the New York Times printed. That's Trump. He's not disciplined enough to focus on that. Terry Sullivan, a longtime Republican strategist, said of the re-election-only strategy, he needs the constant quick fix of people loving him. Mr. Trump, continued Mr. Sullivan, is the Rod Stewart of politicians. He may keep coming up with new material, but deep down he knows his fans just want to hear Wake Up Maggie, so he keeps playing the same tune because he can't stand the thought of them not loving his performance.
Oh, no.
Okay, Terry Sullivan.
Wow.
Now, we are not huge fans of Rod the Mod. I am a huge Dylan fan.
Well, I am now.
But I like Rod Stewart fine. And let's examine what's wrong with what the New York Times say. First of all, Rod Stewart refused to play Do You Think I'm Sexy for 20 years because he thought it was commercial, crowd-pleasing garbage that he didn't feel his heart was in. So first of all, Rod Stewart has done exactly the opposite of what he's being accused of.
Yes.
Second of all, Mr. Terry Sullivan, you stupid motherfucker.
Yeah.
The name of the song is Maggie May. Although he never says Maggie May anywhere in the song, he named that song Maggie May in reference to an English drinking song. Okay? But it's called Maggie May. It's not called Wake Up Maggie. That's the first three words. That's not the name of the song.
And the most basic of research. Let's just talk. If you're going to hire somebody for research.
Yeah.
I mean, there could at least be
That's
Wake
crazy.
Up Maggie, parentheses, sick.
Yeah.
And then the New York Times could say, actually called Maggie May.
I quickly typed in Rod Stewart hits, and the third one is Maggie May, very clearly stated.
Yeah. Even the spelling is there. On top of that, this is not a cynical song that Rod wrote in order to be a hit. It was a B-side. It's, I think, 4 or 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a clear chorus or a release or a middle eight. It just goes on, and it is a complete reporting true story. It's about how Rod Stewart, at 16, the first time he fucked.
Yeah.
Her name was not Maggie, but the rest of the story is pretty true. All you did was wreck my bed and in the morning kick me in the head. And she was much older than him. He was 16. The morning sun, when it's in your face, really shows your age, but that don't worry me none. In my eyes, you're everything. But we haven't even gotten to my problem with this yet. You may think we've gotten to my problem, but we haven't. They're talking about, and let's use the word, and please forgive me, go with me on this. Let's use the word racism.
Okay.
Or let's use the word heritage. Let's use that word. When Trump goes to the word heritage, that is playing to what we would compare to Rod Stewart, his hardcore fans.
Right.
Maggie May is known by everybody. of a certain age.
Yeah.
It was a huge hit. So when Rod Stewart goes to Maggie May, he's not targeting the hardcore fans.
No.
Okay, he would target the hardcore fans with something from the Jeff Beck time or something from, right? Jeff Beck, the hardcore fans would go, woohoo! That's his heritage.
Yeah.
Or he would go to maybe Reason to Believe, or certainly Every Picture Tells a Story. If I consider myself a Rod Stewart fan of a certain age, when he does Every Picture Tells a Story, I go, woohoo! And then when it broadens out to the friends and spouses of the hardcore fans of Rod Stewart, Maggie May comes in like a reassuring balm over everybody. Maggie May would be like if Donald Trump said, how about those tax cuts I put through? Those tax cuts, because the rest of the audience would go, we don't know about the heritage shit. We don't know about the Southern generals. We don't know about the thugs, but tax cuts, woohoo! Now, if you're not a Rod Stewart fan, if you think that gravelly voiced prissy motherfucker who tries to do standards and is sometimes a little out of tune, if that's your point of view, then Maggie May's not going to win you over.
No.
If you're a Democrat, tax cuts are not going to win you over. But tax cuts are the broadest umbrella of a Republican audience. There are many, many Republicans who do not consider themselves, and maybe even aren't, racist, who, when you say tax cuts, go solid, right on, except Republicans don't say solid, right on. But you understand my point. Maggie May would be tax cuts.
Yeah.
Every Picture Tells a Story, at best, is the heritage thing. At best. But I'm going to go with I'd Rather Go Blind, or maybe Losing You, or maybe even Miss Judy's Farm. Miss Judy, she was moody, but she always, Another song about Rod Stewart getting laid. Oh, wait a minute. Every song is about Rod Stewart getting laid.
Even Hot Legs?
even Hot Legs, even Silicone Grown. Don't try to tell me it's a what you've been eating. Let me guess you've been to see a specialist. Since when have you been 44 around the Get On With the Song? Silicone Grown. Or maybe even one of the ones Ron Wood sings originally, like Ooh La La. How about Gasoline Alley? Any of these would be more the heritage stuff. So I'm saying New York Times, and especially Terry Sullivan, lay off Rod Stewart right now. Just lay off him. He has no dog in this heritage fight. First of all, not even American.
Yeah.
American racism, not Rod Stewart's fault.
Yeah.
Second of all, he wrote Maggie May from his heart, and it is not cynical. This is not a Barry Manilow tune where halfway through we'll change the key and excite people. This is not being written as a hit. This was written from his heart.
And thirdly, Terry, what's the name? Terry
Sullivan.
Terry Sullivan. We don't want to think that you're as out of depth with your Trump criticism as you're out of depth with your Rod Stewart knowledge.
Right.
Can you recommend who he should have used? You want to help Terry out, or she? I don't know.
I thought about that.
I bet. Really?
I think Tony Orlando. I think if you were to say Tony Orlando could be writing new material, but he comes back to tie a yellow ribbon, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be fine. As a matter of fact, you can use almost anyone except Bob Dylan, and they're a better choice than Rod Stewart. Because I don't think Billy Joel has a song he stopped doing for 20 years that was number one.
Oh, I don't know.
Or Elton John. I'm going with people that age, okay?
But I know
Let's at least stick with Americans. Let's at least stick with Americans. Let Elton out.
I know I have a piano. I know it's right there. I'm not playing it.
Right.
I'm not playing Piano Man.
Right. He would do Piano Man. But Billy Joel also did newer material, and Rod Stewart also did newer material.
Yeah.
It becomes more complicated with Rod Stewart because Rod Stewart did a few albums of standards.
Yes. He kind of
And so his
reinvented
new
career.
material was actually old material. But he would do The Way You Look Tonight, and he would do that kind of stuff. And he also did The Killing of Georgie, his big, very sensitive song about a gay friend of his who was killed. And he would do that later, although that wasn't a big hit.
Right.
He would do that, and that was written way after Maggie May. And I might add, is only tangentially about Rod Stewart getting laid.
It's a really next level for him.
Yeah, and True Blue is after Maggie May. That's still a mainstay of his concerts. So New York Times, I don't care about you printing the editorial from the fascist Republican senator that fired the editor. I would like to see this writer fired for not explaining the Terry Sullivan thing. I would like to see at the end of this. Listen to this again. If you want to be appalled, okay? You look at the news, it's all fairly, blah, 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 who cares? But if you want to get angry, if you want to feel outrage, let me read this again. Mr. Trump, continued Mr. Sullivan, is the Rod Stewart of politicians. Should be parentheses. No, he isn't.
Yeah.
He may keep coming up with new material, but deep down, he knows his fans just want to hear, "Wake up, Maggie." So he keeps playing the same tune because he can't stand the thought of them not loving his performance. Also, if you are an entertainer, you'd like them to love your performance. That is a different thing than a politician. Politicians sometimes have to feed people some unpleasant truth.
Yes.
They just do. Very often, that's part of their job. Okay? Rod Stewart, nowhere is it part of his job not to please the audience. Rod Stewart, you did not tell us any difficult truths. You just talked about getting laid. That's why we're there.
And I believe Rod Stewart did get laid and didn't just sing about it. Whereas if he put out an album called "I'm a Businessman" and I'm going to run music like a business, and then you look back in Rod Stewart's history and find out he never successfully ran a business.
Well, by the way, you were also wrong, and you were disparaging Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart is a much better businessman than Donald Trump. Donald Trump has less money than his father left him.
Yes.
His father was a wicked, rich, racist, motherfucking cheater.
Yeah.
And he left his son like $300 million.
Yeah.
Rod Stewart's father was one of those English jobs that none of us want, like in coal or something, or metal
Chimney sweep.
Chimney sweep. He was Dick Van Dyke, right? But Rod Stewart grew up poor. And now Rod Stewart has a swimming pool and Britt Eklund's panties at his house.
Rod Stewart successful.
now lives in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Rod Stewart is wicked, crazy, nutty, successful. Rod Stewart's father left him, let's round it off, jack shit. And now Rod Stewart is worth, let's round it off, all the money in the world. So if Rod Stewart came out and said, "How I get laid and I'm a successful businessman. Are you ready to rock and roll?" That was my Miles Davis impersonation, much better than my Rod Stewart impersonation. Hard to believe. If you had said at the beginning of this podcast, will Penn's impersonation of Miles Davis or Rod Stewart be better? The answer would be, to anyone who listens to this, they will both be unrecognizable and indecipherable. But the fact that Rod Stewart, I did more like James Brown,
Yeah.
and Miles Davis, I did more like Tom Waits.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, I saw Rod Stewart, okay, when I was in high school with the Faces. were previously called the Small Faces, but then Ron Wood and Rod Stewart joined the band, and they weren't small. So they took away the word Small Faces. Unlike the Young Rascals, who changed their name to just Rascals. I guess it's just like that. But I'm still waiting for them to be the Elderly Rascals.
Sure.
And none of the faces put on a lot of weight, or I would expect them to call themselves the Extra Large or the Husky Faces. Husky Faces would be a good name for them. I saw Rod Stewart with Ron Wood and the nondescribed Faces.
Yeah.
And it was one of the greatest shows I've seen.
Oh, no doubt.
A really good show. And he did Maggie May, which was on the charts at that. Okay. But Rod Stewart does not seem like a particularly cowardly entertainer.
No.
Okay. Now, by the way, I like Tony Orlando. I've met Tony Orlando. I like him. But sometimes Tony Orlando does fall back on knock 3 times.
Yeah.
You don't see Tony Orlando going, listen, people, now I'd like to do something for my 1980s concept album about Somalia.
And he's not doing like Tom Jones. He's not doing covers of Prince.
Right. Yeah. So I just think New York Times, we'd like to see, on behalf of Rod Stewart, a written apology. I think this is a time in the nation's history where it's time that we all have to stand up for something.
Yeah.
And I think Rod Stewart is our choice.
This is it. Putting our flag in the sand. We are fighting for Rod.
We have crossed the Rubicon, and
the red shirts. The red shirts fight for Rod Stewart.
How about
Rod?
Red for Rod. Yeah, Red for Rod is what we will do. We'll do a whole movement to stick up for Rod Stewart. I have, and I'm sad about this, I've never met Rod Stewart. I bet I would like him tremendously.
Yeah.
But what's really funny is, after Matt said that, is he does have a reputation, a little bit negative, for being a very good businessman.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, there are quotations from Ron Wood going, I wonder how we got that orchestra without paying him. Yeah. So, and he was able to be in a band with people called Rod, Ron, and Ronnie. And that seems confusing enough.
Impossible.
I love that one song, which would be for a hardcore fan, not Wake Up Maggie.
Yeah.
When they start the song by going, Rod, you're stepping my chord. Rod, you're stepping my chord. Then the song starts. And I have never known who was yelling at whom.
No.
Because in their accents, I can't tell Rod from Ron.
Yeah.
But it is really funny to start a rock and roll song of the 70s with someone being very upset that you're stepping on their chord. Robert, he stepped on my chord. Anyway, so Red for Rod.
Red for Rod.
We're sticking up for Rod Stewart. But I was appalled by that. Also, in the Cameo.com, I do these things where I do happy birthday and I do happy anniversary. And I've done all these things, and I love them because I get these reviews where people say, boy, you made my father so happy. It was a great Father's Day. Boom, 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 boom. It's just wonderful. But now it's crossed over.
Uh-oh.
One guy did it, and I loved it. He wrote, and I look at what it is. I look at my phone for what I'm being charged. They go to Cameo.com and they write like in 125 words what they want me to do in a special video for them. And one guy wrote, I would like you to do Andy Warhol Eats a Hamburger with food of your choice.
Oh, wow.
Now, Andy Warhol Eats a Hamburger is a movie.
Yeah.
Where Andy Warhol gets, I think it's Burger King or whatever it is.
Burger King, yeah.
And he unwraps it, and he opens it up, and he eats it, and then he deals with the trash, and he has a drink of his drink, and he eats a French fry. And he does it all on camera, aware of the camera, but not speaking to the camera, and not really addressing the camera, and there are no gags. And it really is a remarkable, remarkable film. Yeah. Watching Andy Warhol eat a hamburger is great. So this guy, his name is Tim. which I won't give his whole name, but because this was a private video for him, he engaged me to do this. And most of the cameos I do, the average cameo is 30 seconds. I always do a minute, often two. Right. People ask me a question and I carry on. This one was over 6 minutes. I set up the tripod by the kitchen, and I didn't tell anybody to be quiet around the house. Dogs running around, everything else. And I set it up, and I hit the button, and I had it framed so you could see the table. And I had my cup of coffee in the mug from Denny's in Greenfield, a great restaurant in Greenfield, not part of the chain, but a separate Denny's. Denny's, they had clams with the bellies in them, which I used to love when I was a carnist. And I had that cup with some very, very bitter instant coffee, made too strong, decaffeinated. And then I took some dark chocolate, 90% cocoa, one origin, and ethically sourced. And a big part of the money goes to preserving endangered species, which I guess now include humans. And I unwrapped the chocolate. Now, when I eat this dark chocolate, it's so strong with bitter coffee that I take one cube and I put it in my mouth and I just let it dissolve. So I broke off 3 squares of chocolate, and one at a time. First one I popped in my mouth, sucked on it, took a little bit of coffee, and then I took the next 2 together, put them in my mouth as one lump, did not chew, just sucked on them. And then while I was finishing up those 2, I closed up the wrapper carefully, the way Andy Warhol does, packed it all up, and then reached up and hit that. And then someone else has said they want me to play a 12-bar blues in F so they can jam along with me. And if this Cameo.com turns into me doing performance art, I will just love it. I wrote to the bosses at Cameo.com and said, do other people do this? And they said, we don't think anyone else has asked. Other people get asked, happy birthday, happy Father's Day. Other people don't get told, I'd like to see you eat something. So I'm hoping this turns into some intellectual fetish thing.
Yeah.
Where people say
feature-length film.
Where people say, and I also asked them the longest cameo that anyone had done. Because, they tell you to do about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And they said someone had done 20 minutes. Oh. And I said to them, I will tell you,
going down. I
will beat that. There'll be someone who'll have me do something that I will do over 20 minutes, over 30 minutes. Someone will have me, would you read the phone book to me or something?
Moby Dick.
Would you defend Rod Stewart? But so that
hopefully that comes from Rod.
Yeah, I would like to. But I've got Iggy Pop to talk about. I got Mae West to talk about. But we have to.
You have Fool Us to talk about.
Fool Us. We haven't talked about Fool Us.
Yeah.
Okay. Then in that case, that was Penn Sunday School.
That was Penn Sunday School.
Cha cha cha.
And to our listening ears,
You become naked.
all nature sang and round us rang the music of the sea.
Huh, huh, huh.
That was Penn Sunday School.
Rod Stewart, you had a fine career. You're a fine businessman. You're not a racist. And the song is called Maggie May. And it made you more money
That was Penn Sunday School.
than Trump's fucking buildings, which are a disaster. Remember, Rod Stewart made money over telling the story of his first time getting laid.
That was Penn Sunday School.
And Donald Trump couldn't make money on a fucking casino. Okay? That's all I get to say. Red for Rod. You know we love you.
Wow.